So I thought, you know what, let me have a look and see if there's anything that fits my heritage and also my style. And I couldn't find anything. So I said, I'm going to start one. I'm going to start a brand.
Hi everyone, I'm Shannon Cook from Business Because. Joining me now is Tuvie Ejoh, the CEO, founder and creative director of luxury loungewear brand Tutu Pikin. If you do enjoy this episode, please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our content. Tuvie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for having me.
So I think let's start by going a bit back in your career history, because you've had such an exciting and varied career. So you previously worked as an A&R Director at Island Records in New York. What made you make the switch from the music industry to finance?
Well, the switch was very organic. I wanted to stretch, and every decision that I make or take in my career is all about stretching. And I worked in the music industry for Island Records for quite some time, and I felt like it had become somewhat, not boring, but mundane, and I wanted more. So I enrolled at NYU University in New York, and I got accepted, and I studied part-time and worked full-time. And it was just proven to be very challenging and quite expensive. So I decided to come back to the UK, the motherland, and where I enrolled to do an economics degree at Royal Holloway. And whilst there, I worked part-time at Goldman Sachs just to fund expenses. And I actually loved it. I got a bird's eye view of what finance was like, even though I didn't like it when I was back in New York. And the fast pace and the high pressure is what really attracted me.
And since then, you've worked at Barclays, Wealth and Investment Management for almost 9 years. So it sounds like you must have enjoyed the job. What do you think you've enjoyed most about working there and working in finance?
For me, it was very similar to being an A&R director or an A&R person. And when I say similar is there are a lot of transferable skills. You're working with clients. In the music industry, I was working with recording artists, and I had to convince them to come and sign with me, and then I had to convince the record company to take them on. In finance, I'm a private banker, and very similar. I have to go out there and look for clients and then convince the business, Barclays or wherever, to take them on. So for me, it was very similar. And that's the thing that I enjoy the most about working as a private banker.
And so what led you to then study an Executive MBA, and what was it that led you to London Business School in particular?
Again, it was to stretch. Everything I do is about stretching, and I had just returned from my maternity leave, having my second child, and I was put on this program called the Launchpad at Barclays, and that's to prepare you for the next stage in your career. And at the end of it, I was disenchanted. I felt like I didn't get what I really wanted. And I'd spoken with one of my mentors, and he said, Tuvie, what is it that you want? Go for what it is that you want. And I've always wanted to do an MBA. And I've always wanted to do, obviously, at London Business School, the leading business school in the UK. And so I applied, not knowing whether I would even qualify. And I got accepted, and here I am. 2 years later, I've graduated, and phenomenal experience, and I feel like I've stretched.
That's great to hear, and I think, obviously, studying in London is, a great place to be an MBA student, or Executive MBA in your case. And you're the CEO of Tutu Pikin. Can you tell me a bit more about your brand and how the idea for this came about?
So Tutu Pikin is an affordable luxury lifestyle brand. We're made in the UK, but our heritage is deeply rooted in Africa. And I say that because it's a bit like me. I was born here, but my heritage is African. I'm from Nigeria. And what we do is we make, right now we started with a capsule collection of children's wear, but we're looking to expand into adult wear and home furnishings. And all of our fabric, when I say deeply rooted in Africa, all of the fabric that we use is hand painted and hand dyed in Africa by African artisans, most of whom are women. So what inspired me to do this? When I had my first child, I wanted to dress him superbly. I was a so-called shopaholic. I would shop nonstop. And when he came on, I really wanted to kind of like transfer that onto him. And I would shop in, all the, affordable luxury brands like La Coqueta, Jacquardi, Petit Bateau. And then one day I realized that these are all international, amazing brands, but I wasn't buying anything that was of African for him, any African clothes. So I thought, you know what, let me have a look and see if there's anything that fits my heritage and also my style. And I couldn't find anything. So I said, I'm going to start one. I'm going to start a brand. And that's really how it came about, just really trying to bring beautiful, luxury, well-made African fabric to the masses.
I think that's really great to hear about how you noticed a gap in the market just from your own experience. It was almost accidentally or serendipitously that you came across this gap. And let's go back to your London Business School experience. How do you think your studies and your experience there has driven the growth of your startup?
It's absolutely amazing. I went in there knowing that I wanted to stretch, but I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't know whether it was I was going to come back into finance and expand and grow within the firm, or whether I was going to do something else. I'd already incorporated Tutu Pikin, but it was somewhat dormant. And the first year of the MBA, it was mainly doing the core subjects, so learning more about business and economics and accounting and finance. And it's really the second year that really transformed me, because I was able to select subjects that were geared towards business, geared towards the business that I wanted to create. So I did things like new venture development, managing a growing business, branding, marketing, luxury strategy, the list goes on. I took as many classes as I could. But what that did was it enabled me to take the learning and apply it into my business. And it has been transformational. It has completely transformed me. It stretched me beyond belief. It's given me everything that I wanted. And in all honesty, it gave me the wings and the courage to quit my job. So about 10 days ago, I left the Barclays office to work full-time on the business. Had I not done that MBA, I don't think I would have had the courage to do that.
That's amazing. That's great to hear. Congratulations. And tell me a bit more about how the networking opportunities, you're using them to your advantage. As we know that as an entrepreneur or building a startup, networking is really important.
I think that's one of the things that LBS draws into. I see myself as a natural networker, but the amazing thing about LBS is the community is very international. So you meet people from all over the world. So I'll give you an example. I do my manufacturing in the UK, and the main reason why I do the manufacturing in the UK is because the quality of the finish that I'm looking for, the African continents are not there yet. They will be, but they're not there yet. So that's why I do in the UK, and obviously I'm from the UK. But during one of my courses at LBS, which was, I think it was Entrepreneurship Summer School, I met a gentleman from Madagascar, and we ended up talking and realized that, you know what, they do amazing work manufacturing in Madagascar. So just by speaking to him and, networking with him, I've now been able to be introduced to a factory in Madagascar where I can now potentially do some manufacturing. And this is great for me because, one, Madagascar, where is it? It's between the African and the Indian Ocean, but still I'll claim it as Africa, and it's closer. So in that regard, I'm also giving back. But I would never, ever have known anything about Madagascar manufacturing, or even if I did, I wouldn't know where to go had it not been for this network and this gentleman from LBS.
That's amazing, and that sounds like so transformative. And tell me a bit more about how you've got obviously the background in international finance and also the music industry. How do you think that inspires your work as an entrepreneur, or really drives the growth of the startup?
That has helped, but it is secondary. What inspires me and what drives me is something that is innate. It's innate within me. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to be in business. and my work ethics, the work ethics that were embedded in me, have not come from finance or from the school, is something that I already had within me. The school and finance gave me the platform to deliver and the platform to work and to put to work my, my dream. So I think first it starts with you and the type of person you are and the goals that you have and your desire to meet those goals. And then you can have platforms like mine, International Finance, and also LBS, which has allowed me to really understand business at a more granular level.
LBS has lots of initiatives in their incubator to help women in business and to help minorities with their startups. Have you ever faced any difficulties as a woman in business? And would you have any advice to other women who want to start businesses?
Throughout the LBS journey, I haven't had any difficulties per se, but the data is the data, and the data says only 1% or less than 1% of women and ethnic minorities get funding. So I haven't gone for funding yet, but that is those are the facts, those are the numbers. So I'm pretty sure that when I do reach the stage where I'm going to go for funding which is next year, I will probably experience that challenge, I'll experience that challenge. How to navigate it? The only way I think to navigate it is surround yourself with allies and advisors and the right people that can help you, I guess, just navigate the course and make the journey maybe a little bit easier.
And you spoke a bit there about some pieces of advice, but if we had to narrow it down for 3 pieces of advice or tips for budding entrepreneurs in the early stage of their venture creation, what would those 3 tips be?
I think the first one would be believe in yourself. Self-belief is incredibly important. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would say listen to the data. If the data is telling you it works, stick with it. If it's saying, you know what, you need to make some changes, don't be afraid to pivot accordingly. Number 3 is stay the course. Stay the course, stay the course, stay focused, stay driven. And what I've learned throughout my time is that those that remain steadfast in their goals and their belief are usually the ones that succeed.
And if you could go back and tell your younger self, just starting out in their career, what entrepreneurship advice would you give?
I would say some of the things you don't know. I started a magazine when I was a teenager. I started promoting parties also whilst I was a teenager. And slowly but surely, I left that world. And I left that world to go into the music industry, even though they're connected. But I left my entrepreneurship journey to go and become an employee. And I believe that if I had stayed the course, I probably would be successful in one of those fields or something of my own. So the advice I would give to myself, stick with it, stay focused, stick with it, stay driven, and just believe that you can do it.
Tuvie, thank you so much for joining me today. I think that's been so insightful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.